All right, again, presenters, I want to thank my co-presenters with me, Weston Kilbride, Map Success Manager. I want to thank Kevin Benitez. He's the Counselor VSC Coordinator at Santa Monica College, and Dr. Vincent Van Hoolen, Dean of STEM from Monterey Peninsula College. Today, we'll be covering 4 major topics, which will be Military 101, Understanding the JST, MAP 101, and also onboarding student veterans into MAP. With that being said, Mr. Kevin Benitez, take it away, sir.
Cool. Thank you, Calvin. And thank you, everybody, for being present here at this conference. It's very important for us. When I say us, I mean I include myself in a lot of the veteran population. I'm an Army vet, and I kind of wish that this initiative would have happened when I was going to school. So the Military 101 is basically just an overview of how it works when a person wants to join the military. So obviously the first step is speaking to a recruiter of any of the branches, whether it's National Guard, Reserve, or active duty. And once you speak to a recruiter, you talk about whatever the plans are that you, jobs that you want to possibly attain. And at that point, they set you up to take a test, a standardized test called the ASVAB, the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test. A lot of people compare this standardized test to kind of like the SAT, but in contrast to the SAT, where your objective is just to get the highest score to get into the best universities coming out of high school, the ASVAB, you can actually get a higher score in certain areas more than other areas. And what this test does is it basically gives the military branch that you're trying to join an idea of what kind of jobs you would be good at. So whereas the SAT is you're trying to get the highest score to get into the best school, in this case, it's however you score in certain areas can dictate what jobs you end up getting in the military. And then when I say jobs, they have different you hear these common words or phrases, right? MOS is usually for like Army, rate, and then you have AFCS. So these are jobs. When somebody says, what's your MOS? It's basically they're asking, what is your job, right? So next slide. All right, great. Thanks, Calvin. So these are examples of jobs in the military. The ones that I want to point out specifically are something like, for example, military police, right? I was military police in the Army. When I got out, my first objective was to be a police officer. Obviously, I went to school. I got an associate's degree at Antelope Valley College in administration of justice. However, because my time in the military was not counted, I spent like 3 years of my GI Bill at AVC. Right, so it could impact how bad it was, right? And then at the same time, I was a military police officer for 6 years in the Army, but yet I was starting from scratch. Things like hospital corpsmen for the Navy. I mean, these men and women do, short of open heart surgery out in the field, but then when they come back, they have to start all over when they go to nursing programs and pre-med. So those jobs are things that I wanted to point out. And then you have other jobs where, people will say, oh, well, I was just infantry, right? But those jobs always include just specialized training, different leadership that they're taught and trained specifically for their job, but that can translate into other type of courses when they come to our community colleges. Next slide. All right, and then the military life cycle is basically students that, or sorry, not students, but people when they join the military after they pass their ASVAB exam, they go to what people call boot camp or basic training, and that is basically it's usually about 3 months, depending. And that just teaches you the basics of the military. And then you end up going to a schoolhouse or a training specific for your job. And that's what they call AIT. Some are combined. So for example, for me, I was in the same place, same location for basic training and my schooling. Whereas other people can do the basic training first, and then they fly out to wherever their specialized training is going to be held in another state. And then from there, after you get the specialized training, you get sent to your unit, your squadron, your fleet, based on your branch of service. And then from there, you would obviously, either do a deployment, or that's where your duty station is going to be, unless you re-enlist or you get some sort of different designation, right? So next slide. Okay. All right. And then from there, you have the contract completed, which is when you get out of the military. You could either have an honorable discharge or retire, medical discharge. There's different types of discharges. And then you get something called a DD-214, which is a document that has a breakdown of everything that you did in the military. So it has awards, it has the schooling that you received, specialized training, any of that stuff. And then you need that, and you use that for pretty much everything, right? For both college and for employment opportunities. This is your basic proof that you served in the military. It also has your discharge status. So it'll say at the bottom of your DD-214 whether or not you're eligible to return to the military. Right. So some people will have an honorable discharge or a medical discharge or something like that, but they'll have a code at the bottom that lets them know that they cannot re-enlist based on the reason that they got out. It's not that they did something bad. It's just a matter of the way that they exited the military dictates whether that code is set on the DD-214. And then from there, obviously you get out of the military. First thing is, for a lot of veterans, they go to school. It's probably the easiest income, right? Instead of having to go straight to work, you go to school, use your GI Bill, and then you try to use your education benefits, right? And that's where the JSTs come into play.
Thank you, Kevin. So what Kevin described was the military life cycle, the moment they enter the military to when they get out, or when they can receive those benefits using GI Bill, and also reviewing the DD-214 that Kevin mentioned, and also the Joint Services transcript. So that leads us to a segue to understanding the JST. So with that being said, what we will cover in this mini Understanding JST will be the topics of what is a JST, how to order a JST and retrieve it from the institutional side, and also how to decipher and read the JST itself. Now, with that being said, what is a Joint Services transcript? Let's start there. A Joint Services transcript, or JST as we call it today, is an academically accepted document provided by the Department of Defense, or DoD, that has been approved by the American Council on Education to validate service members' military occupational experiences, military course completions, descriptions of military occupations, and even college-level test scores. Now, this specific document is provided to 4 of the branches in the military: Army, Marine Corps, Navy, and Coast Guard. The reason why Air Force and the Space Force is currently not here is because their transcripts are accredited and they do have their own College of the Air Force transcripts. In addition to that, these ACE-specific JSTs are accepted by over 2,300 colleges and universities nationwide. There are currently about 5,600 recommendations from ACE that are pulled from military occupations and courses. And I have provided here the link below on how you can order a JST if you are a student veteran or current member. And also, this is the same link that you would utilize to retrieve this JST from the institutional side. Now, ordering the JST, what you will see here is a quick, brief slides on how to order a successful JST from the student side who comes to your institution's VRC. With that being said, once they select that link, they do have an option to register. And also, if they have already successfully registered, that means they have their credentials. With those credentials, that means they can initially enter their username and password. Now, once they successfully log in, there are going to be a lot of fields on the top and even in the center of the JST page. The one we want to focus on is the My Transcripts on the top left-hand side. Once you select this button, you will have 5 options. The main one you will select on will be the bottom one, which states Request Official Transcript. This will provide JST that the student veteran is requesting official transcripts to be sent to the institution that they are interested in as being a prospect or attending in the near future. Once they select Order Official JST, it will give them this box where they will simply select School Search and they will enter the first few letters of that school. It will automatically pop up. And once you select that specific school, it will provide you the person's name and the rate and rank that they got out. In addition to that, the school they're going to. And because it is an online delivery, 98% of most JSTs being ordered in institutions will be online delivery. Once you select I have read and agree with the terms, you simply select Send Official Transcript, and the institution will receive this document on the next day. Now, on the flip side, who will be receiving these on the institution side? So we have found out through proper statistics through our cohort members is there's not one designated area who receives these JSTs. What I mean by that is, just like an official transcript, these JSTs are sent to the institution. Now, there are options who receive them from an evaluator, the admissions and records or registrar's office. A counselor can receive these, a school certifying official, the Veterans Resource Center or Veterans Success Center representative or advisor can also receive these. It is best to have 2 individuals to receive these JSTs, rather a primary and or secondary. Now, with that being said, how do institutions successfully log in to receive the JSTs? What we're going to do here now is, again, the institutions have 2 sections, right? They can rather go on the left-hand side here, which academic institutions, where they would request credentials to view these JSTs, or if they already have successful username and password, they can simply just log in. Once that institution does log in, they will be prompted with a View Order Transcripts. They will simply select here on this Bulk Order Transcripts view. Once they select that, they will pop into another page where it will provide them the list of student veterans or current active duty service members, reservists, that have successfully ordered JSTs to the institution they are interested in. Now, once the institution does have these JSTs, on the right-hand side, there is an icon where you can simply select and you can save into a PDF. One recommendation is we do recommend that you save into PDF into a secure folder. Again, just a quick reminder, once a student orders these and they send to the institution now has 30 days to rather download that JST or again, secure it into a secure folder as a PDF. Now, let's talk about the JST part itself and how to transparently read the JST. So the first JST here, you will see on the top left-hand side is the branch that that individual served. As you can tell here, it's U.S. Navy. On the right-hand side, you will see the official seal of the American Council on Education. Now, on the service member information, you will see general information on that student. For this purpose, we are seeing what's called a official unofficial, okay? So technically, this student veteran is unofficial transcript. As you can tell, we redacted the name and put it as James Monroe. If it was ever official transcript, you can tell it's official because it will have the social security number clearly stated on this side. Now, on the right-hand side, you will see military courses. Now, what you will see here is a description of the military courses that that individual service member took while they're in the military. Kevin described earlier, the moment they enter boot camp, to when they go to their A school, whether in the Navy or Army or Marine Corps, this will state their courses that they took during that journey. On the left-hand side, you will see the exhibit information and the minor description, what it is. The ACE review day is when American Council on Education brought in faculty members from, again, the nation and collectively selected what military courses and what will be provided with a credit recommendation. On the right-hand side, that's what we're going to. You will see one SH. The SH does stand for semester hours, but in academia, we translate that into credits or units. Now, moving along, I did mention previous slide, the military courses. Now you will see a minor description on the military experience for this individual. You can see here, it is a fireman. On this slide here, I did also mention that JST does hold college level test scores. The reason why is because sometimes the military members, while they're deployed or overseas, do have the opportunity to take, again, courses in college. So some of them will be tested here, whether it's CLEP or additional type of CPL. Now, you have another section here which will state other learning experiences. So sometimes here you will see a majority of experiences in courses because ACE has not yet evaluated the specific service member's training. If that is the case and the service member is inquiring about why some training they obtained in the military is not here, this is where you would look at the location and why it would not be. As you can tell, number one, it clearly states courses has not yet been evaluated by ACE. Now, this section here is actually very helpful. I say that because this is where you will see why American Council on Education is linked to the DoD, which is linked to JST. And also on the left-hand side here, it states understanding what your JST means. I know in the military, we utilize a lot of acronyms, but we want to be able to let you know that even though these acronyms are kind of confusing, please feel free to utilize this page so you can decipher all the acronyms we're using and even the lingo from MOS to rating and rank. Now, what we are going to look at here is the summary page. So what I showed you the first few pages is the descriptions of what our JST holds. Now, the summary page is an accumulation of everything that you just saw, but collectively combined. So on the left-hand side here, you'll see the ACE ID and the military course. Now, what we want to look at importantly are the middle section where it states title and subject. So these are basically what we call the credit recommendation titles. On the right-hand side, we do see the credit recommendations that American Council on Education did provide for each individual credit recommendation title. Now, next to the credit, you will also see a level. So this level will give you 4 different letters. It would rather be L for lower level, upper for upper, B for vocational, and G for graduate. So the reason why we speak on this is because sometimes in the military, most of the courses that we take as an enlisted compared to officer will be what's called lower level courses. Now, once you start hitting a higher rate or rank in the military, you will start to see the U, which will be upper level courses. And with a specific example will be officers of the military. Now, before I proceed to the ACE faculty review process and sending it off to Dr. Van Hoolen, I will lastly talk about the credit recommendations. So I did touch on a credit recommendation, but let's talk about it now. So credit recommendations are listed on JST are based on each service member's military experience, academic exam scores, and academic courses completed while in the military. These credit recommendations have been evaluated by the American Council on Education and designated in semester hours, as I announced earlier. Again, to simply say it, in academia, we call it by credits or units to simply combine it. Now, again, the bullet points here, we'll be talking about the military training, the course, which we call education, and occupational experiences. Now, again, we have coming up Dr. Van Hoolen, who will talk about the ACE faculty review process. Dr. Van Hoolen, go ahead, sir.
Okay, good. I'm unmuted. Hello, everybody. So I'm here to talk about the ACE review process. And a question that I'm sure over half of you have is, who is ACE? Why should we accept their recommendations? Because ACE is the one who is doing all the analysis on the JSTs. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm a 30-year military vet, and while I was in the military, I rarely spoke about ACE. In fact, I wasn't really sure who ACE was. And about 4 years ago, as a dean at Monterey Peninsula College, someone came to me and said, how would we start offering military vets the credits they deserve? And you have seen the thousands of courses and hundreds of occupations that are possibly in the military. And I said, well, there has to be a big central organization with a lot of money and a lot of people and expertise to go through these thousands of courses and occupations and make recommendations to the colleges. At the time, I didn't know what I was doing was describing ACE. That is exactly who ACE is. They are the American Council on Education. They are a national nonprofit organization, and they are authorized and supported by the DoD. But ACE is not a new organization. It's been around since 1918, and it was first established as an emergency council to prep World War I vets for the workforce when they were coming back from Europe. In 1942, it developed policies. 1942, it developed policies for the evaluation of military education and experience. And finally, in 74, it started looking at military occupations. So ACE has been at this for a very long time. So Calvin, next slide, please. So the main point in this slide that I want to make here is when ACE makes a credit recommendation, they are not doing it in a vacuum. They're reaching out to colleges and universities around the country and creating teams of individuals. The individuals, the faculty that they're pulling in must be currently teaching at an accredited institution, and they're going to pull in faculty to review occupations and training. They're going to tailor their expertise to the training that they're reviewing. Faculty have to have a minimum of 5 years of experience to qualify for an ACE review team, and they try to go for a little diversity with regards to institutes of higher learning. They're trying to get the 4-year public and private schools in, and also 2-year public and 2-year private schools. So this is what they're looking at when they put together a committee to evaluate courses in and to evaluate occupations. Next slide, please. So again, reiterating here, the teams are going to consist of subject matter experts. They're going to be tailored for the discipline. It's going to be experienced faculty that are on the teams. And I want to push again, they're going to have balanced representation with regards to the types of colleges that will be on the team. And Calvin, if you can give me the next slide. So why should we trust ACE? When ACE looks at a military training program, it's looking at formal service courses. So it's not looking at casual training or a course thrown together on a ship or in the field. Actual formal service courses that are approved by central authority. When they look at these courses, it's going to be a rigorous hands-on process. And I'll provide for you a link later if you want to hear an ACE presentation. But it's typically a 2 to 3 day process where, again, these subject matter experts are going to be looking at the courses. They're only going to look at courses that are greater than 40 hours. So if I went to a 20-hour firefighting school in the military, they wouldn't look at that course, but they're looking at the 40-hour range and beyond. And they're also looking at courses where the students are formally enrolled in the course. So there's a formal student identification. So again, next slide, please. So as they go through this review process and they start to make their credit recommendations, ACE is going to capture the recommendations in something called the Military Guide for Military Courses and Occupations. This military guide is online, and as you see, you also saw it annotated in the JSTs where recommendations were made. But what's great about the military guide is you can take one of these JSTs, scan it into ACE, and ACE will produce or will retrieve the recommendations for course credits. The important thing about the recommendation to recognize is that when they bring these faculty teams of experts on board, there has to be 100% consensus on the recommendation. And someone once asked me, how do you ever get 100% consensus amongst faculty and administrators? Well, there's a lot of back and forth and discussion, but in the end, if 100% are not in favor of the credit recommendation, it will not show up as an ACE recommendation. So let's move on to the next slide, please. So as we said, ACE looks at two different components of military training. One are the military courses, and the other thing that ACE is going to look at is military occupations. Now, when they review military courses, they're going to gather. Typically, they'll gather at the training center, but they're going to see the syllabus, the course planning tools. They're going to see the student guides, the instructors. They want to see the textbooks, the handouts, the manuals. They also want to see, what kind of tests, what kind of questions are being asked in the test. They're going to consider things like, is this a theoretical course or is it practical? Is it too much of one or the other? Is there too much military jargon? Does this course actually translate to something in the colleges and universities? They're also going to look at labs. They're going to look at rigor. and the curriculum. So I'm from what my review of some of the ACE literature, typically it's a 2 to 3 day session where they're reviewing all these things in order to determine a course recommendation for credit. Next slide, please. The other thing they do is the occupational credit recommendations, and they do a lot. The thing about the military is you take a course to go into the occupation, and once you get into the occupation, there is more on-the-job training, practical training, and so forth. So when the reviewers are looking at occupations, they actually start to bring in service members from various ranks to discuss and to determine what kind of standards they needed to meet in their occupation, what kind of jobs they did, and so forth. And does the occupation align with current curricula? And again, if they make any recommendations based on occupation, they need a 100% consensus. So those are the two types of reviews, both the course review and the occupational review. Next slide, please. So I wanted to show you some samples of ACE output. And this is actually based on something that happened at MPC. We had a military member contact us who wanted to apply for nursing school. And in our conversation with the member, they were missing one course. They needed to have a pharmacology course. But this particular person had been a hospitalman in the Navy. So we asked this individual, this veteran, to provide us with his JST, and we did, and we scanned it. And in the scan, one of the things we got out of ACE was a description of his occupation. These are the kinds of things that a hospitalman does in the Navy. I won't read it to you, but as you look through it, you know, it looks like it's on the level of a licensed vocational nurse, perhaps some RN type duties. But that is the sample of the occupation. But then ACE also looked at all the courses, and if you can give me the next slide. So when it looked at the courses, and here was the ACE recommendation: 3 hours of communication, speech, 3 hours of anatomy and physiology, 3 hours of health and wellness, 3 hours of medical terminology, and 3 hours of pharmacology. And there was the big bingo moment. This was the course that he would have needed to be able to apply for our nursing program to complete his application. And then there was a couple of other upper division courses in nursing fundamentals. So when we looked at the pharmacology, we clicked on the pharmacology link and we got the related competencies for pharmacology. So I took this report, you know, to our nursing director and said, if you were to see this information, would you approve this particular individual for credit in pharmacology? And her answer was yes, she would. And in this situation, this would allow the veteran to apply for nursing school this year, as opposed to having to take pharmacology in the spring and applying for nursing school next year. So it saves an entire year off this vet's pathway. So next slide, please. So the whole point of my conversation is to try to convince you why you should embrace and trust the recommendations of ACE. However, I cannot do it justice, the amount of work ACE does to get at these recommendations. So there's a couple links here. One is, would you like to become an ACE faculty reviewer? They're always looking for teams to review new military courses. I understand that they pay $500 a day, they pay for your travel, and they pay for your lodging. So if you're interested in this, click on this link and see what it's all about. If you want to know more about the ACE Military Guide, there's the internet site you can go to. And finally, if you would like to see a presentation straight from the source, people who are on ACE, the last link is a 2-hour presentation by ACE that talks about what they do, and they talk about it in depth. So if you watch it at 1.75 speed, it's slightly less, over an hour. So I'm going to leave you with that, and I'm going to hand it over to, I believe it's Weston now, who will talk to you about MAP.
Thank you. Yes, so next slide, Calvin. Awesome. So you've been hearing a lot about MAP. If you are one of the cohort members, thank you for joining us today. You've already heard this, but we appreciate having you here. The MAP 101 I'm going to feed you is very brief. You can read what's on the screen, but I'll kind of also have some verbiage on the side for you to listen to. So MAP is a publicly owned application that allows colleges to log students that are eligible for CPL as well as automatically identify credit recommendations being parsed from their JST. So again, this is military veterans that are providing their JST, loading it into the system, and able to identify those credit recommendations that Calvin identified earlier, all automatically. So from there, the MAP allows the ability to create and approve and apply articulated credits then to CPL plans for these students. So it's a very student-centered way of articulating. Additionally, MAP facilitates an articulation adoption process between colleges and supports approval processes for multi-college districts with shared curricula. To do so, the platform houses various catalog data as well as in-depth exhibit information integrated from ACE, as Vincent just spoke on, and the DoD Cool database. And we're continuing to expand these databases as well to provide a wealth of information. Finally, MAP facilitates the application of global CPL area credit for a DD 214 that will be discussed in the next session, as well as elective credits and area credits, all of which can be applied then to a student's individual CPL plan in MAP. Because MAP starts with the student intake process, the data from such processes is used to then report on CPL regarding awarded CPL for the state. So again, that's kind of a lot of points that I touched on, but just a gist for you for what is MAP. Next slide. Okay, so the features of MAP are included on this slide. Calvin, I'm not sure that this is the updated one, but that's okay. I will talk on the things I added. So the public-facing eligible credit search is known as the MAP search tool that can be accessed by anybody who is looking to identify a MAP college that is already articulating credits, as well as identify their own eligible credits from a JST or from a manual search of an exhibit ID entry. We also have the Adopt Articulations module that is embedded within MAP itself, which allows colleges to review and acquire other cohort created articulations, again, kind of creating a community of colleges that is working together to standardize and normalize the CPL practices. Also the MAP approval process, which is what we will demo for you today, which includes discipline-specific faculty assignments that are performing reviews of the subjects they are assigned, detailed exhibit data from ACE and DoD Cool, as well as exhibits created in MAP, which is upcoming, and also a simplified approval interface through email, which we will show you a clip of in the video that I will show you next. Also, the student intake module is our huge highlight feature because, again, it is a student-centric application, making sure that we touch on each individual need, including an automatic JST uploading feature with identification of credit recommendations and the ability to create course and elective articulations, as well as to identify and track the student's CPL status at that college. So again, making it really, really student-centered and applicable to each individual who may enter your college. Next slide. And then the demo. So for today, I do have a video. I will be pausing it briefly. We will make this video available on our website as well. So I apologize if I go a little bit quickly. I know we're limited in time today, but I will be showing the basics of onboarding student veterans in MAP, including the loading of a JST, identifying those eligible credits, creating articulations, and then also approving articulations and then applying them to the student record thereafter. So Calvin, if you would let me share my screen, I do have a video all ready to go. Again, to save on time, I did record this process for you all to see, and I'll just kind of talk you through it as we go. So you should be seeing the MAP logo. Are you seeing that? Awesome.
Yes.
Okay. Making sure I'm not talking to outer space. So, okay, so military articulation platform. So MAP allows users to log in using their, I'm gonna actually pause it here, using a specified credential. So in this case, I'm the evaluator, and that would be somebody who's initiating these articulations, identifying the students at your campus. There can be more than one in MAP. So this person, again, is going to be working with the student intake, making sure that they are identifying those eligible credits for each student and eventually applying those articulated credits. So here is the MAP dashboard. I did want to touch on the supports that are offered in MAP as well, including the help portal, which includes all of the user guides and resources like that for training, as well as a chat feature, which will appear in the bottom right corner that you'll see as we go through the video. So again, I had signed in as that first stage of evaluation. I'm going to take you through to the student intake module, which will allow you to see a student log, and all names have been redacted in this case for protection and identity. But here we've got a bunch of presidents all loaded in to this college on their training site. I am going to select a JST and upload. This is actually Calvin's JST that we're using for the example today. So I'm completing that upload, and his record will automatically appear within this student log. And from there, I'll be able to edit his record, including all of the student information, as well as creating articulations from his record specifically. So I'll let this play for a moment. So some of the features that we've added on, especially using the cohorts responses and feedback, are these fields at the top that you'll see me filling out. We have not only just the basic student information, but also information regarding this veteran's history, including the branch that they were in, if they are a military student. If not, I do have the option to choose whether or not they were military or non-military, as well as identifying any of their educational benefits on the top right corner of this portion. So the program of study can also be aligned, again, creating a very student-centric process, and from there also selecting the program goals. So here Calvin might be looking to transfer to a CSU and also achieve an associate's degree, a local degree. And then from there, I can also identify the CPL status. So again, we're trying to track each individual that comes to your campus so that you can figure out what is the best route for them and the best method to take moving forward in awarding CPL. And then I hit save. That student has been updated, and I will scroll down so you'll be able to see the eligible credits table. So here I will pause and show just a couple of the features here. This is where all of the action takes place in the student intake, from creating articulations that are from courses at your college to creating elective credits, also for area credit creation as well. And these are, again, new topics that we're discussing with the cohort and beyond. Really excited to have the functionality to be able to identify this in MAP and be able to award these credits. You'll see here off to the right, as Calvin had shown earlier, those credit recommendations being pulled from the JST are all listed here. And then each of the ACE IDs that are associated are on the left. So you'll see that this is repeated because several credit recommendations were pulled from that single ACE ID. So it's all laid out. You can also see those semester units that were given by ACE as well on the JST. So continuing here, I will show a demonstration of a course credit creation, course credit articulation creation, excuse me. So here you'll see me hitting create, and then I'm able to actually search the record of all of the courses within that college's catalog. In this case, I'm choosing Aero 26 airframe structures and applying it to this aviation machinist's mate with that ACE ID pulled from the JST and that highlighted credit recommendation in yellow. So again, it's a pretty simplified process from here. MAP does all the work pulling out those credit recommendations and utilizing that information being pulled from ACE so that evaluator can do their job simply and swiftly. And then I select articulate, and here is the automated workflow process. So you'll see I'm initiating a notification here to a faculty member. Notifications, I'm gonna pause here if I can. Notifications can be seen in two forms. One would be the in-app notification system, which I'll show after this screen, but this is our new and updated interface that's coming through your email. So as a faculty member, we know you wear many hats, and that is important to consider as you're working to award these students credit. So from here, you could just simply click approve, return, or deny, or you'd be able to view details of this articulation and approve, return, or deny based on that review. So again, there are multiple interfaces. Next that is shown will be the faculty login. And here I'll show just that notification up above where you see that came from the evaluator. I'm looking for approval. And here I'm just selecting approve, and then I can notify that next and actually final, in this case, reviewer, which is titled the Articulation Officer in MAP, but that's technically just our stage 3 review. So once this articulation officer or stage 3 reviewer has seen the information that's being sent over, including the course and the occupation, I can send it forward to implementation, which is technically when it is ready to apply to that student. So at this time, the evaluator will actually have the ability to revisit the student intake and see those implemented credits. They can view the whole process as it goes through the faculty, the articulation officer queue, and then straight to implemented. So you'll see it there, and I'll be able to actually apply those articulations. And here, the application process is just shown down below. The applied credits table will house all of those credits that are being selected for that veteran and can then be exported and sent over to admissions and records for their final send-off. Oh, and then I'm also creating here, that was quick. I'm also creating an elective credit as well. So that's just simply creating or selecting the elective button here. So you see that I've created a military credit with 3 elective course credits because it was 3 hours in industrial safety. Once I do create an elective credit, that's an expedited process where it goes automatically to the implemented stage because there is no need for further review as the evaluator is taking all of the needed information to make that choice. So here you'll see I can also apply that as well. And that will land down in the applied credits table below the eligible credits table. So again, this is all for that one student, but I will have you know that when you do create an articulation, it can be applied to more than one student. So if another student has that same record or that same ACE ID in their JST and wants to also have that same course articulation, it will be available for them as well. And then here is just an applied MAP credit summary that includes also those eligible MAP credits as well, and all of the work that's being done by those evaluators and beyond in MAP. I know that was a really speedy presentation, but again, we will make this available to you on our website for further review. And I do see that there are questions in the chat, so we will try and get those answered for you as soon as we can.